Closed?
Yes, better open.
Okay.
Oh no, better closed. I'm sorry, better closed. Here we go. So good morning, everybody. Claire, good morning. Danius, Jane, Jackie, Vicky, Marie, Elaine, Andy. So Susan, look, all Emma, Ben, all people that you know. Susan, Georgia, Carla, good morning. Lucy, Helen, Andrew, good morning. Sharon, yes. John, Libby, Alicia, Gary, yes, good morning. Good morning. Yeah, you saw James there. He is. Yes, James is also helping Susan. She's at home this morning. We are sorry that we're a little bit late and we are letting everybody get into the room. Hello, Naomi, Irma, and good morning. I'm so sorry we're a little bit late, but James and Susan had some internet connection problems this morning. So we've spent about the last 20 minutes trying to get a good internet connection. So let me have a look how many people are in the room. Yes, I think we've got a good amount in the room. So let's do the housekeeping as we always do. I don't think we really need to because I think most of you know by now. So we've got the chat going. Do feel free to chat there, and feel free to I can see Sophia there. Sophia, it may have been our technical issues. We literally have just started. Good morning, Steph. So please feel free to chat there if you've got questions for Susan, if you write them in a blue question box, and then we'll take those. And all the way from Italy, Susan joins us. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay. It was all my fault. And somebody's just said it's an Italian thing. Yeah, it is. I'm living up in the mountains. I chose to do this morning from home as opposed to the office. And so the internet isn't as good here as it is in the office. So my sincere apologies to everybody.
So so we've got a lot of people that you've met here with us this morning, Susan, but I do want you to also know there's a couple of people on here that you've not met before, but they are in the process of in lockdown. We're in the process of helping them to get their salons up and running, ready for reopening with census. So
oh, fantastic. New members to the family. Great.
Yes, indeed. So as we see them, speak there, we can make sure that we welcome them. We're very happy to have them with us. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now we're going to start this morning. What I did find was, or refound, because I've seen it many times, but I went in search. Susan did a video. I think Susan will be able to tell us how many years ago it was, but it's really an introduction to the company. So I wanted to start this morning with that video. So hopefully Declan will be able to. Thank you, Declan, if you can roll that video.
Oh gosh, this is nostalgia.
Welcome to Tuscany. Welcome to GMP Cosmetics, the home of Census, sensational world hair care. This company was born 10 years ago in this beautiful Tiber Valley with the objective and the vision and the mission to maintain the beauty of the valley. We produce hair care products for the professional hair industry. So whilst our mission is to the beauty of the world, we have made our promise to ourselves that the company will maintain the beauty to the territory. In that point, we actually source many of our wild plants and ingredients from the local territory. We actually use renewable energy with our solar panels, and we take our water from the Tiber Valley, and in fact we put, after processing the water, back into the river cleaner than it actually came out. So all our efforts are towards beauty. Beauty to the world and beauty to our territory. We also have, as a mission to the professional hairdressing industry, created a university here. We have a beautiful school called Global Fashion Academy. In this school, we have the objective to let the hairdresser share their ideas, bring out their creativity, improve their self-esteem, everything which basically will improve the general of the sector, the proficiency of the industry. We are waiting for you to visit us in our company or in our school. We are here to show you the beauty of Tuscany, the beauty of our products and the beauty of us. Thank you.
Susan, I love that video because it's a very succinct summary of the company and the ethos. And of course, we love the products. They are the best. There's no doubt about that. But we love the company for what it stands for and how we can all align our values with that. How long ago was that video?
I don't know, but looking at my fat face, I think it probably was about 4 years before I moved into this house, which actually consumed all my my calories. I think it must have been 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years.
It went onto YouTube as well, I think, so I'm easily findable now. People they just write Susan Campbell Tuscany, and all my post gets here from the UK. So yeah. I think about 4 years ago, Debbie.
Yeah, okay. And salons in Italy just went back last Monday, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, it was touch and go whether in fact it would happen. It was pre-announced that they could open on the 18th. INAIL, which is a body here which defined all the processes as to how they could open and with what security processes, actually came out with their referendum on Friday evening. And so people running around getting masks and visors and etc. etc. So people really excited and really emotional, actually. How, oh gosh, we're getting back to our passion. Not getting back to work, we're getting back to our passion. And so on Monday they opened up, obviously by appointment only, and the distancing. I think they would have one backwash empty in between, in the middle. But the thing was, and then everybody just got on with their work. But in the evening, I noticed in Facebook, a lot of people were just saying, "Oh God, what a tough day it's been. We've had to wear these masks. I've got signs on my face. It's hot, etc., etc." So it was an enthusiastic start, but a very difficult first day, I think, for people. But their satisfaction came. There were comments about, "Oh, my client I haven't seen for 3 months was so happy," and so forth. Even one funny thing happened whereby somebody said, "Bring your own masks in. We've got masks in," and one old lady appeared in a Venetian mask, covering her eyes, and her nose and mouth was exposed. And they said,
"Oh no."
They said, "You can't come in like that." And so there was those funny moments during the day. So, but we've had, now it's Friday, an easy week, and people are getting to tune with the new actual way of doing things in the salon.
Yeah, I concur with that. When you first go back, when we first came back at Passion, and there's only a few of us back, but it's weird at first, you know, and almost a little bit you know, you have to think about everything you're touching, and somebody might touch afterwards, and but you soon get used to it. And speaking of masks, Susan, I've got mine. I took it off actually, but I've got mine here. There you go. And compliments to Census. I love these masks. This is nice and soft on my face, and you can still hear me, and it's comfortable. It's not too tight, and there you go. So I've got my
You look good.
mask.
Yeah,
and
you've understood the trick. You have to put the mask under the glasses, otherwise your glasses steam up.
Yes.
So that was people's original. Anyway, it's
I learned that after my glasses steamed up a few times, and I thought, hang on a minute. So yeah, if you wear glasses, you have to put it under the glasses. And then the other trick, and it is on the instructions, is that you must put the elastic at the top of the head here. But I wore mine on, what day was it? It was one day this week. I wore mine all day, so that in solidarity with the hairdressers that might have to wear it a little bit more than we're wearing them in the warehouse, because we only wear it if we can't stay 2 meters apart. So we keep it round our neck, and if we have to work close together, which we do sometimes if we're unloading pallets and we've got lots of pallets there to unload, then we just slip the mask on and plenty of hand sanitizer, and that's really what it's about. Okay, so that's good for those hairdressers to know that they've been able to go back. So our series is really about defining moments, and Susan, one of the inspirations for the Defining Moments series was we've had a lot of webinars here in the UK, as I'm sure you have in Italy, and lots of them are, you know, the subjects are often quite heavy, and I myself sort of thought, gosh, I'm not sure, you know, well, actually my real inspiration came when we had Neil do a webinar for us, and you're a great Neil fan, aren't you, Susan? We've had some good fun with Neil.
Yeah, is he on today?
I'm not sure whether he's on. Let's have a look.
He's still drinking his bottle of champagne.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story too. Let's see. I can't see him there.
No,
but I saw Joachim's there.
Hi, Joachim.
Anne said the echo on the sound is really bad on me.
Debbie.
If I do that, does it make the echo better? Does that make the echo better? Okay. All right. So what happens here? My sound is down. So when you speak to me, Susan, can you just put your finger like that so I can quickly put my sound up so I can hear you, and then I can put my sound down again. I don't know why I have that problem. Now I forgot which story I was going to. Oh yes, it was Neil that gave me the inspiration, because he did hair and it was wonderful. You know, many people that were on here saw Neil, and at the end of it I thought, oh, that was so wonderful, what a breath of fresh air just to watch hair, you know. And so I thought, well, we've got quite a few weeks to go now here in the UK before July the 4th. What can we do which is a little more light-hearted? We've got plenty of time, you know, before we have to get really serious again, so let's do something a little. So that's where the Defining Moments series came from, and we're looking for people that inspire us, and you inspire us, Susan. We feel so lucky to have you as one of our leaders, you know, within our community. Some of the defining moments, you know, that you have had in your career and in your business. So what would you say was the biggest defining moment?
How far do I go back?
As far as you like.
Basically, as most of you know, I'm English born. I went up to A-level standard at school, got reasonable grades, which was a miracle insofar as I wasn't really a good academic. My destiny was going to take me towards studying law in the University of Durham, but in the summertime between the A-levels finishing and resuming university, I actually started working, got my driving license, and of course that gave me a certain amount of freedom. And then I started to work in a golf club, hotel golf club, and basically met what was to become my husband. And so I decided I wasn't going to go to university. So my father was appalled by that, and basically he said, well, what are you going to do now? So I decided I had to do something very quick. And so I went into customs and excise, as an executive officer, because at that time they were actually imposing or introducing the VAT. And given the fact that that was not going to be a particularly interesting or acceptable new tax on people, basically they were employing 2 times women rather than men. So it was like 65% of the new workforce of 6,000 executives was going to be female. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I realised that really that was not my where I wanted to be, because of certain issues that happened during that period of time, some not particularly pleasant. And so I began to realise out there in the hard, tough world that things particularly were not how we foresee them. Basically then I decided I wanted to get into sales. A problem, a defining moment in me, because it actually created an issue with my parents. They weren't particularly happy that I was going to do that, so I was going through a lot of emotional strain on that, but I decided to stick to my guns, and that was what I was going to do. So I worked for this company for about 2 years, and I took his little miserable turnover from 200,000 up to 2 million, and that basically got me to the point where I first began to realise, my first delusion in life with people, that their values were not what you think they are. And so as a consequence of that, I actually left that company, because I felt that he was not being a particularly good employee and a good person in the community. And that was a difficult defining moment in my life, because I thought, what am I going to do now? So I decided that I wanted to go into marketing, because of course I was driven by the fact that when I was working for this particular company, there were no marketing materials, there wasn't the strength, the skills, the training, etc. necessary in order to do the function particularly well. So then I decided okay, what type of sector am I going to go into? And so I decided that I really wanted to go into something which was beauty or fashion orientated. And so I pitched on Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder was my dream. That was the company I was going to work for. And I applied and I tried and I reapplied and I tried, and basically it wasn't happening. So I thought, well, I can't stay unemployed forever. So they were defining moments, because I was feeling at 19, 20 years old at that time, particularly inefficient and not with good self-value. And as a consequence of that, I thought, okay. And then I suddenly saw one day pop up in a newspaper an application for an offer of a job for Kleinel. Clairol, I dismissed. Kleinel in Aylesbury. And I went for 3 very hard interviews, and that was very sort of soul destroying and whatever, but I was driven by it, etc., etc. And I was accepted to go and work for Kleinel. Then at the last minute on a Friday evening, I got a telephone call which said that basically, and the legislation in the UK at that time was such that sounds good to me. Legislation at that time was such that if somebody in the company who had the qualifications to take on that job would apply for that job internally, they had to be given that position. And so they called me on the Friday evening and said, you can't have that position. We're very sorry to let you down, but somebody internally from Schwarzkopf has applied to move over to Kleinel. Both of them were both in the same business in Aylesbury. So I said, oh, okay. But then I said, and I thought I was really quite intelligent at this point in time, because I then said, well, if the person from Schwarzkopf is moving over to Kleinel, could I not then apply for the job in Schwarzkopf? And the personnel person at that point in time said, oh, we hadn't thought about that. So I said, okay, well, what does that mean? Can I apply? And they said, yes, okay, fine, okay, we'll set up another appointment. So I went in for another meeting. And because I'd gone through the ranks anyway, so I had just to go in to meet at that point the general manager of Schwarzkopf. And so I was offered the job, and that's where I started in your beautiful industry.
That's I love that story. It's a fantastic story. And how many years have you been in the industry, Susan?
Oh gosh, that would have been in 1978, if I'm not wrong, 72, 78. And then I should have had a chronological sequence, shouldn't I? I'm so old now, I can't remember, Debbie. I've been in the industry for...
Well, that'd be over 40 years. So you've been in the hair industry over 40 years, and
Yes.
we're lucky to have you. Now, whilst you were working for Schwarzkopf, you had as your project in the marketing department there a project that has had a massive effect on the industry here in the UK. You know which project that I'm talking about, don't you? You were the project leader. It was your baby, your brainchild.
Yeah.
Your brainchild. You know which project I'm talking about?
Go on then, announce it. Yeah.
So when you were working as the marketing director at Schwarzkopf, it was you.
Oh no, I was only little product manager for Regatta Royal actually, but meeting with in London with the press agency. Yeah, we evolved at that table that wonderful project, which is still on its feet now after what, 30 years.
Yes. So the project that I'm talking about is the British Hairdressing Awards.
Awards, yes. Yeah.
So tell everybody about the beginning of the British Hairdressing Awards.
We were just basically sitting around a table at lunch in London. I forget the lady's name now. A beautiful lady. She was our PR agent. And basically she said, we need to do something different. We need to do something which is inspiring. We need to do something which allows the hairdresser to have gratification on stage for what he's doing. And so I said, well, we just need to do some form of competition then. So they basically said, yeah, well, how are we going to do that? And it's going to cost so much, and how are we going to coordinate it, whatever. So anyway, we set up the plan. We had a meeting a couple of weeks later, and it was born and is still actually alive today. In fact, they tried it in other countries too, and it hasn't had the same success. I actually spoke to Peter Belcher about 8 years ago and said, could I do the same thing in Italy, or would I be taking away intellectual property? At that point, he said, well, it is a trademark of Schwarzkopf, so I don't know how easy that's going to be. But we all remember that it was your project, starting with 3 of us around a table at lunchtime in London.
There you are. So I don't know how many of you didn't know that, but that was Susan's project. So next time you see the British Hairdressing Awards, you will know where that started. And that's what when I thought about this Defining Moment series, Susan, I thought during this time of lockdown, and you and I have discussed this already, there's an opportunity for every business and every person to take the time to be able to reinvent their business or reinvent themselves, do things within their career that they, wanted to be the hairdresser that they've really wanted to be, but other things have stopped them, or things in your business where you're so busy doing things, you haven't got the time to really implement. And that's, that was another one of those kind of inspirations for the Defining Moment series, because, and when I was thinking about that, I was thinking there are so many stories and examples of ordinary people. Not that you and I are ordinary, Susan, but no, the truth is you and I are ordinary people.
We are.
And we just happen to have done extraordinary things. We've gone the extra mile. Tell us a little bit about that.
Starting from where?
That we're ordinary. You and I. Oh. We're humble and we're ordinary.
Yeah, and I think also that's a very interesting part of the relationship that we have, which made my company actually get launched, because people were happy to meet with us. For example, what we've skipped a big part of my life, but I mean, we can go back to that. If we're now on the issue about the humility and the importance of that in our business, because we are in a people's business, and people really appreciate to feel not in partnership, but in friendship, I think. And I think that was lovely when I actually got a great lesson from you, Debbie, when you basically said, I don't have clients, I have guests, you know. That's part of this humility thing, and this coming down to sort of no levels of people, you know. We really have to get on with people as we see them. Coming back to us being normal, I don't know. You've taken me off guard, actually, because I don't even think about anything other than being normal. The thing about our relationship started, Deb, I don't know how many people know this story, and it's a lovely story, and I tell it probably too much, but when basically you contacted me and said, I'm looking as a hairdressing group to actually create a distributorship. Would you be interested to meet in order to discuss this further? And I knew that the UK was a particularly difficult marketplace because it's governed by the big 5 or 6 as it is. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't know much about you and whatever, but within about 5 days, I knew a lot about Debbie Digby, insofar as I said, okay, well, I'm in Milan on Saturday and Sunday for a trade show. So maybe we can pick up next week and you can come in and see the company and whatever. Within 15 minutes, we've put the telephone down. Debbie called me back and said, I've booked my flight to Milan. Where can we meet you? And we met under the stairs of a bar at about 11 o'clock in the morning, had a cup of coffee together, and we're still together. How many, Debbie? 10 years later?
Yeah, it's 9 years. Yeah.
9 years.
We'll celebrate our 10th anniversary next year. Yeah, that is right.
I call Debbie my soul sister. She's not my partner. She's my soul sister.
Yeah, we've become great friends, and we're very similar. Now, whilst we're talking then about, because you know, we've got this stuff on standby. Whilst we're talking about, and the reason why we're talking to people about ordinary people do extraordinary things, I think, and as you said, Susan, you know, being humble, I think what we're trying to tell people is that anybody can achieve, as long as you're prepared to do what it takes and, follow the defining moments, etc., etc. But anyway, this morning, Andy King, Susan, sent me the most wonderful video of you. So, and you don't know that this is coming yet. Here it is. So, Daniel, Declan, please play this video if you would.
Oh my God!
Susan, I'm interviewing for a cleaner. Right, I need someone that's good at hoovering, so we'll just get the... You reckon?
So that was at Pro Hair Live. It was actually just before lockdown. In fact, so Susan had come to Manchester to support us at the Pro Hair Live show. And what you saw there was Susan literally just in with the team. She was doing the hoovering, and Andy had videoed her, you know, the owner of the company doing the hoovering, which just goes to show that humble is what we are. We'll roll our sleeves up and do anything, won't we, Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to that aspect, I'll tell you another little story. We when we started the company, we didn't really have excess funds. Of course, you can imagine the sacrifice and the risk we took to start up this company, but that's another story. And we invited our first guests over from Spain, and we were trying to incite them to become our distributor in Spain. So we booked this agroturismo, which is called in English an agroturismo. It's
like a country house.
Yes. So, and we thought, okay, well, so Julie and I went in there and we sort of stocked it all up with food and got their beds ready and all the rest of it. I mean, the owner of the house did put everything in place. But anyway, we then received these people. We picked them up from the airport. We took them in and we did meetings in the garden and we were cooking barbecues and whatever. And they thought this was absolutely amazing because obviously it was off the wall. Normally they would be invited into a 5-star hotel and looked after from here to there and everywhere. And Julia was sweeping the floor, and I was washing the plates and whatever. And they actually were supposed to come here for Easter this year and stay in my bed and breakfast place. But of course, the lockdown prevented that from happening. And she was on the phone to me the other day. She said, I can't wait to get back and see you sweeping the floor and doing the barbecue. It was wonderful. And so this memory, this emotion, this comradeship is important to people. And so we basically, as a company, have driven our business based on no levels, values.
Yeah. And of course, many of the people that are on this webinar with us today have been to Italy and have experienced the wonderful hospitality, from you and Julia, and of course everybody else at GMP, and of course everybody else in the area. I mean, some of the people here that have been regularly know the restaurant owners and the hotel owners, and they have their own friends now in San Sepolcro. So it's been amazing. Yeah. So here's it. Look, wonderful. In fact, the other evening, Matt had posted on social media, I can't wait to get back to Italy. And there was a whole conversation going on there about how excited people are to one day be able to come back to San Sepolcro and do some of the things that that we do there. We have so much fun when we're there.
We love having you, and so the territory is missing you, actually. So as I said to Matt, well, we'll all be having to wear masks and drinking behind our masks on a stick. But anyway, things here, I have to tell you, we've been very lucky. This is a happy island, because being a valley and being so cut off, when of course the airport shut down, of course we've had no traffic in and out and whatever. We have only had 2 cases, James, of the virus. Well, we had 20, but we controlled it, and and we've had nothing for 5 weeks now. So, and I believe they're opening up Italy is opening up borders on the 1st of June. So 2nd of June, 3rd of June, 3rd of June. Oh yeah, they're keeping us home for another weekend because we've got a public holiday here on the 2nd. So on the 3rd, it's all gates open. But people are being responsible and they're keeping the distance, and except maybe the youngsters. And we're actually saying, you really need to be responsible to yourself and to other people.
Yeah, it's important.
In fact, yesterday, the police are actually making a lot of money out of this. I don't know whether this is happening in the UK, but if people are not conforming to the protocol, they're getting fined 500 euros. So yesterday, outside the bar, 3 youngsters were chit-chatting themselves. So the bar was fined 500 and the 3 kids 500. So the policeman in 5 minutes made 2,000 euros. But they're doing it to create an example.
Yeah, so that people do adhere to we need to do that here, because we have a bank holiday weekend coming up now. The weather's been really nice here. You probably know, because I know that of course you still have your family here, so you probably know the weather's been nice. People have been going to nice public places, beaches and parks and whatever else, that's all good and all nice, but it does mean that some people are not sticking to the protocol, as you say. And you hear me sighing, because I'm a little bit frustrated about that, because we're all making massive sacrifices. Yeah. Which for me personally, I'm prepared to make those sacrifices to protect everybody. But when everybody's not doing it properly, it makes me very frustrated and not bordering on angry, because I think I'm making all these sacrifices. We have hairdressers here, Susan, who are, they're being called the secret hairdressers or the underground hairdressers.
Oh, we have to.
You had that too?
Yeah.
And the fines can be up to £3,200, and they do need to find a couple of scapegoats and give them a fine, and they call it kill one to scare 1,000. And that's what they need to do. But anyway, there's my little 2 penneth for now. So tell us more, Susan. So where were we in the timeline here? So you're working for Schwarzkopf. You were part of the British Hairdressing Award. Well, it was your project. You led that project, launching that, and it's still massive in our industry here in the UK now. But then you decided at some point that the corporate world was not for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
But it wasn't. No, there was a big 12 years in the middle, Debbie.
Okay, go on. You go ahead.
No, because I was happy in Schwarzkopf as product manager on the Agora Royal brand. But then one day the telephone rang and I was contacted by a headhunter. And that headhunter basically said, we'd like to meet with you on a new project. Would you be interested? To which point I thought, well, no, I'm not really interested. I'm really happy where I am. And I just bought a house, having moved from Watford to Aylesbury to be nearer to, I'd just gone through a divorce as well. So I was actually not looking for another big change. And so, and I said, I don't know. And he said, well, we really think you should spend the time. They almost convinced me. And I said, okay, I've got nothing to lose by attending a meeting. And I said, well, could you tell me who the company is? No. And as headhunters work, as you know, they don't tell you who the company is. So then I sort of got a bit curious and I thought, yeah, okay. So I met them in London. I told them all about my experiences and whatever. And they told me a little bit about the company without telling me who the company was. And then I met for a second interview. They still haven't told me who the company was. Then I met for a third company. And I thought, well, I've come this far. I can't just block out now. That would be actually stupid. And then they uncovered at the third interview that the company was Alberta Culver. And I would need to move down to Basingstoke in order to take on a new brand, which was basically Alberta Culver being a retail company, was purchasing or had purchased a Dutch company called Indola and Tresemme. No, Indola, just Indola. So I said, okay. And they showed me the packaging currently, and it was horrific. All total brown bottles, glass bottles, horrible brand names or product names and whatever. And I just sat there and I thought, God, this is a challenge. And of course, being an international company, Alberta Culver, I thought, okay, well, but I was really happy and I just bought this house. So they said, you've got 5 days to decide. And that was a real defining moment because I was happy where I was. I was emotionally a little bit unstable because I'd just come out of this divorce. And you know, the most stressful things in life are divorce and house moves. So I'm thinking, do I really want to go into? And then I thought, yes, I do. And so I accepted the job and I was in Basingstoke for about 3 months. We had an international meeting in Brussels. What the company was doing was employing top-notch people from all the various companies, L'Oreal, Vela, Revlon, etc., to put them in the various countries. And I met with all these people, and it was a beautiful long table. I remember it long in Brussels on the Place. And I thought, this is another world. And basically said, okay, this is exciting. And the guy said to me at the table, well, when are we moving to Monte Carlo? And this discussion went on and whatever. And I said, what's he talking about, Monte Carlo? He said, didn't they tell you at the interview that you were only going to be in Basingstoke for 3 months and that we're moving to Monte Carlo? And I said, I've just bought a house in Basingstoke. So, of course, that was a big stress and whatever. And I thought, I don't know. I said, and I can't go back to Schwarzkopf now. So that was a defining moment in my life because I just had to go with the flow, go with the wind. And so anyway, this move to Monte Carlo didn't happen because of bureaucratical issues, etc., the whole office. And then they decided, okay, they were going to go to Brussels because Brussels would be, they were giving funding for companies to move into Brussels. So I moved into Brussels, sold my house in Basingstoke, and I was in Brussels for 2 years, and that was a very challenging time. And then they said, well, there's no point in you being in Brussels because the fashion world is in Milan, and Milan, Italy, is the biggest company of our chain, in which case it's only right that you should be in Italy. So I think, oh God, another defining moment in my life. Okay, so I went to Italy. I was there for 2 years, and then I decided that I really wanted to go further. And so I applied to the head office in Chicago to go on to another experience, in which case they moved me to Canada. But in the meantime, in Italy, I had met the man who was to become my second husband, who's James's father. And so we decided to go to Canada together. And then at the end of the day, he decided he couldn't come. So I went to Canada. That was a very stressful time in my life, but it was an enjoyable time in my life. And that's a whole story on its own. But then I decided I needed to come back to Italy. So I came back to Italy. But of course, I had no job. So my 12 years there with Alberto Calvo was amazing. And I think I learned so much in that period. And I gave so much as well, because I launched 22 product lines in 2 years, to the point that they allowed me to come back to Italy 6 months earlier, because I had done 2 years' work in 18 months. So basically, then I came back to Italy, and I had no job. So that was another defining moment. What am I going to do in my life? I had no job because I'd chosen to come back from emotional, personal reasons. And so I got married. And then, so I did freelance consultancy for major companies here in Italy, Lissap, Wella. And then, strangely enough, Alberto Calvo asked me to do a project on Indola, so I totally relaunched their line again. And then I decided that life was just too stressful. I had 5 briefcases at the front door. One was labelled Weller, one was labelled Indola, one was labelled so and so forth. And every day I would be going out with a different briefcase in order to meet and drive projects on for those particular companies. And then I was getting to 40 years old, and I thought, you know, I really need to start thinking now. If I want a family, I need to do it now, in which case I'm going to have to slow down. And so I decided to take up a job in this area, which you all know and love, with a company called Camon. And I did a 2-year contract with Camon. James at that point was born. He was 3 months old when I dumped him with the sisters in the local convent. I went to work for them. I did a 2-year contract. And then I decided my contract finished. And then I decided I'm not going to leave this valley. So that was a very defining moment, because I didn't have a job and there was no jobs here. No jobs here that would take me on, because, as you know, Debbie, businesses here are very family orientated. And so as a consequence of that, they look after their own families first. They didn't want a high cost like me. So I decided I was going to take a sabbatical and look after James for the year that 2 years I'd lost on him, because I'd just dumped him with the nuns. So that was a major sacrifice, and he faces me with that quite often. Says, Mum, I was the last kid to be always picked up from the nursery. I felt like a doll on the shelf for sale, and all this sort of thing. So these are the things that mums go through when they're trying to make these sacrifices that we do. And so as a consequence of that, I then got involved in a project which required a colour formulation. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm going to set up my own company, because I had all this wonderful experience of all these years with Schwarzkopf and Alberto Calvo. I think it's time now that I actually do something for myself, applying all my skills, and hopefully God's with me and it's going to work. And so I was sitting around the table one day. I just called Julia, and I hadn't met Stefano at that time. So I said, Julia, I've got a major project that really needs your skills. Would you be prepared to look at what this involves? So I said, but you need to bring your husband, because this is not going to be a job, Julia. This is a lifestyle change. And so she said, yeah, okay. So I met with Stefano and Julia and with my husband, James's dad, and we drove to this meeting. And then we came out of there and we thought, oh gosh, this is interesting. So then we called Davide and said, who was my accountant at that time, had been my accountant already for 10 years. So I said, Davide, I've got a project that I want you to evaluate as to whether I should be doing this or not. He came in, he looked at the project and he said, I'm not only going to advise you to do it, I want to be in on it. And that's basically how GMP was started. And it was all because of being at the right time, at the right place, with the right people, with the right qualifications and experience. So that was monumental. That was a monumental defining moment of my journey to acquire my expertise. And basically that's where we started. So also boring, sorry.
No, everyone, I've heard the story before and I'm still mesmerized, as I'm sure people are. Inspiring. And you know, most of us are in this community. You know, what binds us together is because we want that human touch, you know, and that's really what it is. It's that human touch. And so those stories are amazing for us. So you started the company, and tell us a little bit, because let's go to today. How many countries are you currently importing into, Susan?
Lost count, really. I think probably 120, 130.
So you're importing into 120 plus countries.
Yeah.
And how many tubes did you manufacture last year?
We closed 2019 on about 48 million tubes.
48 million tubes of colour you manufactured last year. It's amazing. So you went from that you just, you know, this is how we formed in the beginning. Last year, that's what you did. So fill in some of the defining moments along the way for us. How do you get from like nothing to 48 million tubes? How does that happen?
It's gone so fast and yet so slow. I don't know. Well, we started in we had looked at a lot of property. Having decided we wanted to do, we looked around for a number of suitable production sites. And on the particular Saturday morning that I wasn't available to go, Julia called me up in the afternoon and said, I think we found the right location. So I said, oh, yeah. She said, you're going to love it, because I was very much into feng shui, okay? And so feng shui means energy direction, etc., etc. And she said, it's very rudimental, she said, but it's got nice rounded corners on the building. And so I think you're going to like the energy. She said, but it's a bit big. It's 250 square meters. So I said, oh, how are we going to fill 250 square meters? And we also have 1 year in order to 1 year's work in order to make it suitable for production, because of course it was just a warehouse with a solid floor. Of course, we had to go down and do the drainage and all the different siphons and whatever and ever for a production plant. So anyway, in that year, it was really, really exciting, but risky and concerning, really, because we didn't go to the bank for money. We sort of scrabbled it here, lent from parents, did this, that, and the other, and got some financing. And we bought our first, 6 months to get the drains in and whatever. In the meantime, Julia and I were working. She was working on the formulas. I was working with a local hairdresser and her, testing the colours on swatches. We, of course, didn't have a lot of people that we could use the testing on. And so I was then constructing the shade guide, and we actually decided that there was a lot of research into that too, because we decided, okay, since we wanted to go worldwide, we would take the colours of Wella and the colours of L'Oreal, and that would give us cool colours and warm colours. So we would offer 2 natural ranges, and then we'd take the golds from Schwarzkopf, the coppers from somewhere else and whatever. So we actually put this puzzle together and created this line, which is M3K, and the shade guide. And M3K today is, after 15 years, still the same packaging, because we never want to change our winning horse. So that was our first year. Julia in the laboratory was in her kitchen, me doing a shade guide in my office in San Giustino, and Stefano was selling martini, and Paolo was doing production and whatever. And then with the first little machine we bought, and you've seen it in reception, we started our company, and we were hand filling the tubes with into the cartons. I don't know, that was the first year. And then,
and you said, so that building was 250 square meters. How many, what size does the company have today?
8,000 square meters, and pavements between, and we've just taken on another 2 warehouses. We have 120 employees. It's just happened, Debbie. It's just happened. I say it's just happened. Again, it comes back to tenacity and the relationships we have with you and our other clients. Nothing happens by chance. As I say, you have to be in the right place at the right time. But tenacity, I think, was our most important thing, and our authenticity.
Quality, I would say quality.
Well, I think people take that for granted, don't they? I mean, we were the last kids on the block. The last people were going to do was we were going to force them, because we didn't even have money to do advertising. So basically, we would say to people, okay, try this. This is our pricing structure, and as a consequence of that, you decide whether you feel that this is your future, and that's how it's rolled. So quality, of course, was fundamental, and we were fortunate too in that instance, because it was at a time when there were about 64 ingredients on a prohibited list, which within the 3 years were going to be banned if they could not be defended. And so I said to Julia at that time, Julia, you have to make a formulation which does not ingredients. She said, that's like asking me to make a pizza without flour. And I said, Julia, that's what you have to do. So basically, when the legislation involved the elimination of these various ingredients, whilst we were the last kids on the block, we were actually out there first with the clean formula, clean beauty, clean formula. As a consequence of that, our pricing structure was interesting, which allowed people to give us the opportunity to try. And basically, we were probably one of the first companies to actually force through the door colour, because we didn't have anything else. Most manufacturers would door break with a shampoo or a conditioner. Confidence would be built between the salesman and the salon, and then the salon could change over to a colour. You guys all know that better than I do, but we didn't have anything else. We just had a colour, M3K. So Matt's asked me, what does GMP stand for? That's an interesting one, Matt, because the company started converting my company, which was global marketing, into lost my thought train. Global marketing. We converted that into global SRL, and then in 2000, and that was in 2003 we started. In 2005, we had some partners leave the company and some new partners come in who were more industry orientated, and as a consequence of that, we set up a new company, and so this other company was Petinon, and so we thought global and Petinon, so GMP was born. But the car going over to the taxi, into the lawyers, we actually said, what are we going to call this company? let's call it Julia and Paolo. Julia being Julia, you know. Paolo, most of you don't know, because he was in the business in the initial stages. So it was like, Julia and Paolo Incorporated. But in fact, it stands for Global and Petinon. So today, now we are, as I say, 120 employees and probably 30 employees on agency.
So now there are a couple of other questions. Declan would have kept them for us. Declan, do you want to put some of the questions up for us, please? They'll come up in front of us in a minute, Susan.
Oh, questions that have been asked that I've missed.
Yes, there you go.
How did I meet Julia and Stefano? Okay, Julia was working with me, or Julia and I were working together in a company local here. Julia was responsible for research and development, and I actually walked into the company. June it was in 1997. In 1996, I walked into the company, and I had been accepted as employment in this company where Julia was working. And I had a big stomach. I was 7 months pregnant with James, and I was standing at the photocopier. And as I was photocopying some documents, James turned in my stomach, and I went, "Ooh, what's that?" And Julia just walked past, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "He's just done a turn." And that was my first words with Julia.
Oh.
So we've done a lot of turns together.
Oh. Next question. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stefan, of course, I met when we did that first meeting on this new project. Who inspires you and is your mentor? I needed a mentor very much in the years I was sort of doing my journey through Schwarzkopf and through that period of time of my separation and divorce. When I got to Alberta Culver, I think my mentors were always the people who inspired me in my work in that company. When I came out of there, I actually didn't depend on any mentors anymore. I actually look more to people who I admire, and the friendship that evolves allows you to ask sort of informal questions, or you know how they would respond to a situation. So actually, I think probably I'm lacking something at the moment, not having a real mentor. Although I have to say, the last year, James having qualified from university, I feel now that we have a relationship where I can actually say, how do you see the other side of the coin? And he will obviously come up, and very often come up with things that I hadn't thought about. So maybe I need a new a mentor professionally, but I think I'm depending. I don't know if I'm not answering the question really, but you've made me think that mentors are important, and it could be anybody. It could be anybody who is doing something you're not doing. It's just having another way of thinking about things. I actually became a mentor myself for the Chamber of Commerce in Arezzo. They asked me if I would take on a project, and that was 4 or 5, you've jolted my memory now, 4 or 5 years ago, for the jewellery industry and local businesses in Arezzo, people were starting up and they needed mentoring. So I offered myself as a mentor, and I had an amazing time. I would go there and listen to what they were doing and listening to their thought process, because the mentor actually means they can never tell you how to do it. They just have to say, this is how you could do it. Have you thought about this? So a real mentor never must say how you do things. So coming back to what I'm doing at the moment is basically asking, confronting myself with other people on different issues. Have I answered the question?
Whilst we are talking about people that inspire, there's a lovely story that I thought about. I love this story and I wanted you to tell everybody. So we've got a picture of you here. Declan will put it up for us. With you're with Vidal Sassoon. There you are. There's Susan with Vidal Sassoon. And that doesn't look, I don't know whether that's at the Royal Albert Hall or not. Maybe you remember, Susan, but you have a lovely story about Vidal Sassoon and at the Royal Albert Hall. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was the
Alternative hair show, I believe.
Alternative hair show. Okay, as you know, Deborah, we used to bring over from Italy about 40-50 hairdressers to come into that show as an excuse to make a corporate journey and get them into the fair, etc. And I, that particular evening, I didn't know Vidal at all personally, but that particular evening I was hosting people to their seats, etc., etc. And we had some clients from one country, I can't remember, who just tipped up and they hadn't got tickets. So they'd come all the way, whatever, didn't realise that they couldn't get tickets at the door. And of course, you know, you couldn't. So I gave them my tickets. And basically, that meant that I was standing in the corridor. And of course, when this show started, they said, you can't stand here. You know, you haven't got, where's your seat? And I said, I've given it up. At that time, John Santilli walked past. And he said to me, Susan, have you not got a seat? I said, I've just given it up to my customers. So I'm going to go out now. And so he said, take my tickets. So he gave me his tickets and he said, my box is round the corner and whatever. So I found my box, opened in the door. The show had actually started, so it was all dark. And I had number 12 and 11 and 12, I think, or whatever in this box of 12 places. And so I moved into the box and there was somebody sitting in 10 or 11. I said, excuse me, I think this is my place. And this person turned around and said to me, you just sit anywhere. So, and I said, okay. So I sat there and watched the show. And when the lights went up, I realised I was in the box with Antonio Moscola and all Vidal Sassoon's, his wife and top knobs of their company. So I said, I'm sorry, I can't stay here. So because Antonio Moscola had given his tickets to John Santilli. John Santilli gave the tickets to me and whatever. So at one point, we were about 15 people outside this box. And so afterwards at the dinner, I went up to Vidal's wife and said, I'm so sorry, because I actually stood on her handbag, I think. So I said, I'm so sorry about what happened and whatever, but I was given these tickets. I didn't even know. I'm just so honoured. And so, of course, Vidal then said, come here, darling, let's have a photograph together. And that's it.
Wow, it's lovely. Do you know, such a lovely man. And every story you ever hear about Vidal Sassoon is, you know, you stood on his wife's handbag and he says, oh, let's come and have a picture. And so that's great. Let's have another question, please, Declan. I think there's a couple more there.
Hi, Susan. Love listening to you. When, if ever, will the hair competition come back to Italy? Oh, Volta Census. Well, we did that. Just for everybody who doesn't know what that is. When we, thank you, Matt. When we didn't have money to invest in advertising, publicity, and models for photo shooting, it came back to me, this idea that we'd started up with the British Hairdressing Awards. Let's do our own awards. And so it was born, this project, Volta per Census, a face for census. And it was a means for us to involve and gratify hairdressers to come to one place and make a ceremony of it. And basically just have a good time together, and the results that came out of it we would use or not use or whatever. But when we actually started to get a bit more sophisticated, Matt, that we had to have models to compete at the quality of standards with the big companies, it was inevitable that we couldn't use local models for photo shoots. So we went a different direction. But I think the idea is lovely. We tried it again on internet as well, doing posts up of works done. We really should look at it, or something different which creates the moment where we can all get together. And but of course now with distancing, I don't know, it's not going to happen this year, is it? But it was a lovely project, and it got us started.
Yeah, it was a great project. And of course, that's how, you know, how Jude really made her transition, because, of course, Jude won 3 years in a row, didn't she?
Yes, yes.
So
She was so inspiring, and people I love her. I mean, we've got her on board now, and she's amazing. She is a talent that I don't think has yet been recognised. We know about it, but the world doesn't know about our Jude yet.
she's with us, I believe. I believe she's on here. She's well on her way. I mean, the last 2 years she's done a phenomenal job at Pro Hair Live. She had a beautiful spread. Oh, what month magazine was it, Jude? The hairdressers, the professional hairdresser magazine. Beautiful spread, but it was right when we went into lockdown, and I've no doubt a lot of the magazines are still in the salons. But we put it on social media. Maybe we'll put it up again. She had a great spread. I'm not even sure that I've had an opportunity to show you, Susan.
No, I haven't seen it. We should put it online, because one of the mandates in the protocol is that magazines cannot be in the salon.
I'm just making a note. I'm going to dig that up this afternoon and put it out there again. The pictures were beautiful. Anyway, she did a fantastic show. And the year before, Errol Douglas, she was on the cut stage the year before, but she had coloured her models because we'd had them on our stand. And Errol Douglas was the compere on the cut stage. And when Jude had finished, he said, "That is the best hair colour of this show." I'll put those pictures up as well later on, so everybody here can, if you've not seen it before, you can see it again. But yeah, he said that is the best hair colour of the show, and it was. And then this year's show, the theme of the whole show was sustainability. Like the whole exhibition was sustainability. So Jude took the banners, the census banners that were from old marketing campaigns, and she got a dressmaker to make all of the wardrobe out of the banners. And then she used that wardrobe she used it for some shows in Italy, for census in Italy, didn't she, Susan? And then she used it for us at Pro Hair Live in Manchester.
Yeah,
so
amazing job. Yeah,
the vision. In fact, Susan asked me once, "What's the difference, Debbie, between a hairdresser like you and a hairdresser like Jude?" And I said, "Susan, she sees things that I don't even see. Technically, as a hairdresser, although these days not so much, but you know, technically as a hairdresser, I'm good, and I was very successful as a hairdresser. But she sees things, and you know, and hairdressers create very creative people like Jude and Neil and Gianni and you know, all the creative hairdressers that you can think of. They see things that I don't see, and I'm sure many of you here are in the same category as me, and some of you will be in the same category as them, where you can, you know, really envisage things and how you create these things. So it's amazing. Here's your next question, Susan. What drives you?
Responsibility, I suppose, to what I started. I don't see it as a drive, really. I suppose I'm lucky because I have a personality that I don't get depressed, I don't get down. I just keep going with a smile.
You see problems as challenges to aspire to, don't you? I know, because I work with you.
Yeah. What drives me, James? You.
Okay, next question, Declan. Oh, do you have any regrets or missed opportunities?
Gosh, you're all entering into my soul, you know. I didn't obviously have enough lockdown time to reflect on all this. Regrets? No, no regrets. Things could have gone a little bit differently, a bit quicker, but no regrets. Missed opportunities. Probably a lot, which I haven't been aware of. But then you see, I'm so multitasking anyway, and I've been on my own for 12 years, bringing up Jane and whatever. So I couldn't actually do any more than I've actually done. But I have been approached. Susan, would you like to do this? Could you do? And some of these things I think could have been very interesting to me, but basically I really haven't had the time. I've been focused on maintaining on track what I'm doing. Otherwise, maybe if we get too dispersive, we can't deal with everything. And of course, we have to maintain a life balance too between health and whatever, and business and social and whatever. The lucky part of my business has been the fact that it's also a part of our social life, because we're not going to work from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night in an office, whatever. Our world is fashion, it's beauty, it's relationships, it's whatever. So I haven't had a lot of time to do else, but I don't think I really needed any time to do anything else. Missed opportunities. I trained as an image consultant, and I would have really loved to have taken that journey and that track. And I was actually talking to a friend last night saying, because it's going to be difficult now to go into, after COVID, to go into the cubicle and try on dresses, etc. It's more now than ever important for the image consultant. And so I phoned her and said, you need to get onto to these shops locally and tell them that you can offer a service whereby people do not have to waste time in the cabins and whatever. And you can tell them, then you're working for the shops, the clothes. You can advise the best colours, the best forms for their body, etc., etc. Then you can give them your business card. You can then follow up with consultations. You can then take them into your hairdresser and tell them with the lines of their face and the colouring that they have. And she said, you've given me a great idea, because I've been sitting there just thinking, how am I going to pick myself up after this? And I said, well, you should need to use this time to reflect, to rethink, to reinvent. You need resilience mentally to actually pick yourself up and keep going and take on opportunities, because we have to build back better, restarting in a way that is different from how we've done it before, the new normal.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Very good advice. Okay, next question, Declan. What habits have you kept that always seem to work?
What habits have I kept that always seem to work? I get up every morning, I put a smile on my face. Up until I had to wear a mask, I wear red lipstick, and I go out there and I shine and smile. That's my best habit. I don't know. You're all making me really think about who I really am.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer though, Susan. It is a really good answer, because what you're really saying is it doesn't matter what's happening in the background. You know, that you put your lipstick on, you put your smile on, and you go out there and you do what needs to be done. And I know that of you. I think it's actually a really profound answer.
Yeah, I like motivating people. I will go into the office and I will do the rounds and say, hello, how are you? And I will do it on a Friday afternoon, wishing people a good weekend. Public relations, I think, is what the terminology is. But I think it's human relations. It's just saying to people, hello, how are you? I mean, I can tell people's mood anyway, the way they walk, the way they talk, their mannerisms and whatever. And I will actually say to somebody, have you got a problem today? And they will talk to me, because I think we need to look, and listen more than we talk. And I'm talking a lot today, I know, but I study a lot, and I love people, and so I just want to make people's day better.
It's a great answer. What's the next question we have there, Declan? What tips can you give Francesca to be where Jude is today? This is from Matt, but this would be any young hairdresser who has aspirations. And for those that don't know, so Matt's been since one of the first census salons here in the UK. His eldest daughter, is Francesca, and she's done amazingly well so far. She's quite ambitious. So, what tips could you give Francesca or any young hairdresser to be where Jude is today? Actually, I will tell everybody that we are going to have
is that me?
We're going to have Jude come on and do one of these. She's on here, and so Jude herself can tell people some of the things that she has done, and her journey's been a long one. There she is. Hi. Her journey's been a long one. You know, the road to success is never short or easy, and she's got some great stories to tell us, some great defining moments. So, sorry, Susan, what advice would you give?
Well, I think Francesca, I haven't met her. She was like knee high to a wasp when Matt and Georgia were talking about bringing them out, and it never happened. But I've seen her on Facebook, and I think the word ambitious is very much appropriate to her. She started so young, and she was doing tutorials and doing stuff which was really, really ahead of her time. But that's, of course, probably as a consequence of her mum and dad. But her passion. I think Jude is an amazing inspiration. And I'm sure Francesca wants to not only be a hairdresser, but also maybe go into the technician's world, or maybe go into styling and photography work, etc. And I think she's perfect material for that. So I would just suggest to Francesca, just stick like a bee to Jude, because Jude also is a very humble person. And it may even be that Jude will learn as we can all learn from each other. So I would think Francesca's best mentor at this point in time of her life, apart from her mum and dad, is Jude.
Good answer. The next question. So Sophia is, she introduced herself actually on our Passion for Hair hotline. And Susan, I did see that you had put welcome. She probably didn't at the time realise, who exactly you were. So we're in the process of getting Sophia and her team up and running so they can reopen as a census salon. So she's put, for us newbies, could you tell us who is Jude? She sounds fab.
So Jude's going to say who she is, or I'm going to say who Jude is?
You say, because Jude's going to in another webinar that we do, but it'd be really great for you to hear your answer. Who is Jude?
Amazing.
She is amazing. She, Sophia, she started with us. Actually, when we have Jude, let's tell the story then. Otherwise, we're going to waste too much time, and we're already a little bit over, which is it's a habit of ours because we have such great friendly webinars. So we'll pick that up if you. But long story short, Sophia, today Jude is she's the style director for Census, the international style director. Have I got that title right? I think I have.
Yeah, she is, and she's basically taking responsibility for all our with Minchotti, with all our photo shoots, tutorials,
education,
work, education. Obviously, our projects have been a little bit hampered as a consequence of this 3 months lockdown. She would have actually been here probably 3 or 4 times in this period. So she's working remotely. we were actually going to be shooting a photo shoot, in which case she was doing the whole research and inspiration, mentoring and coaching also our stylist technicians to come up with their proposals so that they could pool it all and then actually say, okay, this is the strategy, the mood board behind our next collection. So that's been going on behind the scenes. We were supposed to be shooting that collection in May now, but we haven't done that, of course, because we haven't been able to get models. So we are working on a project which is, I think, is going to just blast people's minds. So she's working behind the scenes on that. So apart from her technical skills, she's also very creative and artistic, and it's great.
And she's a salon owner in Westcliff-on-Sea, and she's also a stylist that works behind the chair. And Sophia, I know that you have been catching up with the census webinars, and the two presenters there, one is Jude and the other one, Susan mentioned the other, Michele. So that's Michele and Jude that you're seeing on those webinars. So that answers that one. Is there another question there, Declan?
We also have to mention Carly. I mean, she is amazing too.
Yeah, Carly's she was really our first educator, first technician here in the UK. So yeah, Carly, of course, and Sophia, you'll meet all of these people because they're you'll meet everyone that's on here, because when we have our events, everyone's very friendly, and we're a great community, and we're all very interested in each other's success. So okay, so we're all caught up. Well, Susan, your last words or thoughts?
I just think it's been amazing. I just hope there's been value in it for you guys. It's a great honour for me. I have to admit I was a little bit nervous about it, because when I saw the previous one, I thought, oh God, how am I going to talk for 2 hours? But anyway, it's been lovely to see you all, and it's been wonderful. I just want you all to know that we're working hard on GMP. We've got some new product launches coming out in order to help speed up the service in the salon. I don't know how many of you are aware of the new fast colour.
Yeah, and there's a webinar on Monday, Susan.
Yeah.
So webinar on Monday. If you've not signed up for MC2 10-minute colour, there's a webinar on Monday, and there's I will get Daniel to post up a link for those of you who have not yet signed up for that. That's on Monday. Sorry to interrupt you, Susan.
That's okay. I just want you to all to be assured that we are pursuing our mission and our vision towards giving the best quality that we can, and the best relationships that we can with all our clients. And basically anything that we're doing is basically towards sustainability, because at one time, companies just thought about getting product out there and getting customers and making profit and making sure you were making profit and whatever. But the world's shifted, and things, one day something happens and it'll never be the same. And I think this COVID situation has made us all think about how we should be reinventing ourselves. We actually did a conference in January just for distributors, and we actually touched on a very delicate theme, which was, the pollution in our world. We've all heard about Catch-up Day. What's it called, Debbie? World Burnout Day.
Oh gosh, wait a minute. You've
Overshoot Day, yeah?
Yeah, that's it, Overshoot Day. Thank you, James.
Day.
World Overshoot Day.
We're all looking now and aware of the sustainable goals, etc. So I think in the year, our lives have actually been turned upside down to make us more sensitive to what's going on and how we can actually create a better balance. I remember when I first met Georgia and Matt, Debbie introduced them to me as the tree huggers. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? And they basically were so environmentally sensitive at that point in time that it wasn't the common thing. And now it is the common thing. And we as a company are really behind that. And so basically, the consumer now obviously expects more. And so our relationship has to be, and products need to deliver what they're looking for. So we're on a whole new world, a whole new journey. And I think it's very exciting. And we just love having you as our family. I don't know what to say. I'm quite emotional, actually. You know, I think.
Oh, well, normally when we'd be saying goodbye, we'd all be hugging you outside as we get on the bus to get back to the airport.
I know.
Or
Well,
as
time
you-
goes so fast. It'll we'll be doing that. When are you
Yes.
thinking to come?
Well,
September.
yes, you know, we have a trip planned in September, but
We're sitting on the fence. I know.
our
Yeah.
government are about to announce some quarantine restrictions which may impede on that trip, but we'll wait and see. We don't, as you do, Susan, because you and I have talked about this a lot. You know, every day you have to just wait for the what's coming next. But supposed to be September, so we will see. Jane said tomorrow. Unfortunately, Ryanair are not flying into Italy right now, but
1st of July.
1st of July. Well, there we are. So I just want to tell everybody that because Census have got a webinar on Monday and it is Bank Holiday Monday here, we are not going to, Passion for Hair have not got a webinar on Monday. Next Wednesday, my Business Bite webinar is going to be strictly for salon owners only. So we will be vetting the sign-ups. It's strictly for salon owners only. We need to talk. Salon owners, we need to talk. There's some things we need to start getting serious about going back, and some of the things that we need to be dealing with. And for those stylists on there are thinking, oh gosh, what are they going to talk about? Don't worry. Once we've had that webinar with the salon owners, then we'll have one for the stylists as well. I'm sure that you can appreciate that the salon owner always has to have some time with which to put things in place. So next Wednesday's Business Bite is going to be a little. We're going back to a little bit more seriousness because we need to. So needs must and all of that. Susan, I just want to thank you so much. It's been so good to see you on the screen. And
Big pleasure. Thank you.
You have a great day. Thank you, James, for helping us out with the technology there at the beginning. Declan, thank you also with the technology there. There he is, giving us a wave. Love to you both, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Love
everybody.
To
Thank you for being with us.
Okay, stay safe. Okay.
Okay. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.